This morning for 10 minutes of morning calm. And today we're going to take a look at is getting the big stuff right. And it's the context of this, friends, right? And we'll give some examples here as well later on. But the context of it here is that we can get lost in the minutia of stuff. And there's no doubt for most of us watching this, we get all sort of in the weeds and all, what should we do? And all unsure. And what we need to do is be able to take a breath and say, all right, first things first here. What is the big picture? What is the thing that we are to navigate our lives by today? And get really, really clear on that. And once we do, it helps to determine, then it sort of filters down, helps to determine what decisions we make at a lower level. So I want to read for you a passage here. Again, this is from the book Secret 7, very, very dense theological language, but the point is really well taken. The general categories, in other words, the big picture. The general categories are arranged first so that the Lord can gradually fit the subcategories into them and the individual components into these. If the general categories are not in order, the subcategories cannot be, because subcategories compose the categories and strengthen them. Still less can the individual details be in order. So again, very thick theological language, but what that's talking about is we have to get the big stuff right. And then what happens is then God slowly over time sort of builds in all this structure underneath it and helps us to get a much better picture, a much clearer. And that's why, like the people who we know who we really respect their decision making, a lot of the time it comes across as pretty simple. And yet it permeates the whole way down through an organization. I mean, that's what I've seen with great leaders over and over again. They have a few key principles. Everybody knows them. Everybody works at them. And then that just flows down and keeps everything in integrity below it. Yeah, and it's tricky to do that, but very, very important. So how might this work in our lives? Like, I think a lot of the time, right? Here's just a silly example, but we get lost in the weeds around trying to be really diplomatic and trying to, sort of like, make sure everybody's happy and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Especially in certain jobs are prone to that and sort of can reward that. And what that means is sometimes, we just need to come back to, okay, what's the honest thing to say here? I'm not going to try to be overly diplomatic. I'm going to try to be super honest. And it's painful. And in the short run, it'll be hurtful. But in the long run, it'll be helpful. So that idea, short run hurtful, long run helpful, that's the first things first approach. And then that can determine how we act in those situations where we're being called to be extremely diplomatic in all things. And that doesn't mean we need to go around like with a flamethrower burning everything down. That's not it at all, because then there's other important categories like love wins, always be kind. Like there's lots of big subcategories there that also will help us to navigate. But that basic act of integrity is super important. So today, just take a breath. And if there's an area where you're just feeling off a bit, just like, I don't know, instead of like sitting down here and what decision to make, go up here to what point am I going to navigate by? Decisions we make, what point am I going to navigate by? Get really clear on that. And then try to see how that might help you to decide what to do. But really take the time without getting all anxious about the decision. Take the time to come back to the big picture. When you do, that will allow the lower picture to sort itself out in incredibly beautiful ways. So that's our little task for today, dear friends. Hope that makes a lot of sense. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a little breath, do a little meditation, do a prayer, then we'll do a blessing, and then we'll say hi to friends who are joining us this morning on Facebook. So with that, dear friends, let's get a little breath. Little meditation from the Old Testament. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's do a little quick look here. And again, I hope everybody's doing quite well. All right, couple of comments there. Let's see. All right. Jennifer, good morning to you, my friend. I hope you're doing well. Sherry, good morning to you. Great to see you joining us. All right. Now flipping on over to here. Flip on over to our other page. Other page. Let's see. See who's giving me the same comments there. Maybe I just read the other comments. No, different ones. Marcus, good morning to you, buddy. I hope you're doing well. And Melissa, good morning. I love that idea. Thank you. You are welcome. It's kind of an interesting one, and it's always like, man, it's always so difficult just to remember. Okay, just take a breath. What's the big picture? And we know we've tapped into the big picture when you feel your breath return. You know, there's just something so relaxing about like, oh yeah, that's right. That's what the big point here is. And then you move forward from there. So, and I see Sharon just hopped on. Sharon, good morning to you, my friend, as well. All right, dear friends, God bless all of you. And we will see you again tomorrow on 10 minutes